Hey guys, having worked for a home blood testing company, I'm very aware of how difficult some people find a finger prick blood test. Thankfully, having a successful test is almost always down to technique. I've personally taken dozens of tests now, initially seeing failures like haemolysis, where red blood cells burst and the sample can't be tested, but having understood the main reasons people fail, I've now been successful in my last 27 tests. In this video, I've packed in 12 tips to give you the absolute best chance of a successful finger prick blood test. Preparing for an at-home blood test actually starts the previous day. If you make sure to go to bed relatively hydrated, that will save you trying to do so immediately before the test. You can gauge how dehydrated you are by your morning bathroom visit and whether your fluids need topping up. I often rely on a single glass of water 10 to 15 minutes before the test. The single most important factor in a successful sample is having warm hands when you do the test. The most common advice given in instruction manuals is to place one hand in a container of warm water. There are a few drawbacks to this. The water is slowly returning to room temperature and it will come into contact with the colder hand. And so my preferred method is to place both hands under warm running water for up to 2 minutes. To avoid sample contamination, it's also a great opportunity to wash your hands. You'd be surprised just how quickly a warm pair of hands lose most of their heat. Blood is constantly circulating in and out of your hands, so to retain heat as best you can, wear a long sleeve top and in general dress for warmth when you do the test. I know the instructions can be tedious, but it is vital to know in advance what to do. That way you aren't scrambling around with slowly cooling hands while you read the 17 necessary steps for a successful sample. Once the hands are warm, the testing procedure might look like this. Dry your hands, use an alcohol wipe on the desired finger, wait for the area to dry, prick your finger with a lancet, wipe the first drop of blood away with tissue paper, and let the blood drip into the tube. Given the high probability of a stray drop of blood, I like to set up in the bathroom near the basin so I minimize movement and keep everything contained. The exact location of the finger prick really makes a difference. Too close to the nail bed and the blood will likely pool under the nail, making it very hard to direct any droplets into the tube. Certain parts of your finger also make it harder to angle the blood into the tube, so here is a diagram of the optimal location for the finger prick lancets, bearing in mind your personal preferences for dominant or non-dominant hand. Before we move on, I wanted to make something clear. The number of times in my early blood testing journey that I felt I did everything right, only to get a single drop of blood or less, really surprised me. What I know now from years of experience is that the difference between a single drop of blood and 20 drops of blood is really small. Maybe the pressure you applied wasn't quite right, or the angle was a little off, or your hands weren't quite warm enough. Whatever it is, don't be disheartened. It can seem incredibly daunting to fill an entire tube when you're barely able to get a drop, but when things fall right for you and it flows nicely, it's over in minutes. So the next one I learned from a colleague in the clinical team. The lancet isn't always a single point, and it often creates a small cut in your finger. If it's clear which direction the cut will be, position it so it cuts across the lines of your fingerprint. It also helps to rest your hand on a surface when using the lancet. By cutting across the fingerprint, the blood forms a nice droplet, otherwise it may run down the fingerprint grooves in a messy fashion. The next tip is to wipe firmly. Obviously, this is the opposite of how you would normally treat a wound, but in this case, you want to deliberately disturb the injured finger in order to encourage blood flow. A firm, deliberate wipe of the first drop of blood can stimulate a healthy flow. I find tissue paper too soft, so I opt for toilet paper or even kitchen towel when wiping that first drop of blood. Haemolysis, the bursting of red blood cells, is one of the most common ways to have your sample fail at the lab. Excess pressure or forcing the blood through narrow spaces can physically damage red blood cells. Frustratingly, squeezing or milking your finger is often encouraged in the instructions themselves. I will occasionally massage my hand to get the very first drop of blood going, but after that it's hands off. The instructions often say not to squeeze too hard, but I find the easiest way to guarantee you aren't applying too much pressure is to not apply any at all. I had back-to-back failures with what can only be described as a soft caress of my finger, and yet it still failed. If you follow the other tips, then hopefully blood flow should not be an issue for you, meaning encouraging the flow isn't necessary. There's another very common habit that can lead to the bursting of red blood cells, and it can be very tempting to do. Scraping half a drop of blood from your finger in an effort to reach the desired line can lead to the dreaded haemolysis failure. You're also sabotaging one of your biggest allies in sample collection, and that is gravity. The weight of the existing blood will help a droplet form fully, and even then it's best to let it naturally drip into the tube rather than pressing it against the side. It is surprisingly difficult to hold your arm perfectly still while dripping blood into a tube that's only 10 millimeters wide. Each drop is so precious that it's very frustrating to lose a stray drop onto a surface or floor because of the slightest movement. If you need to, position your kit so you can steady your arm on a wall or other object for increased stability. If you're watching this as a veteran of blood sample collection, or you play certain musical instruments, rock climb, or do regular manual work, you may have another problem to deal with. Calluses, hardened skin, are a real issue with finger prick lancets. Be mindful of which fingers you've used recently and try to vary the location while staying within the rules of optimal placement. A real game changer for me has been the little finger. It hurts a bit more, but I couldn't believe how much blood would flow out of it the first few times I tried. People are often too quick to give up on a finger and either switch to another one or start rewarming their hand when blood flow stops. A better approach is to take some toilet paper and aggressively wipe the wound again. More than half the time I find this initiates blood flow again, often saving me from using another lancet. As you can see by my collection of unused lancets, despite being given 3 per test, I quite often only need the 1. So what does this all look like from start to finish? I've put a timer on this to show what's possible when it all goes to plan. There's up to 2 minutes under hot running water, and I'm constantly adjusting the tap to find the sweet spot where I can just about handle the temperature, and I know my hands will be a pinkish colour when I'm done. The kit is already laid out and I'm going to dry, cleanse and air dry as fast as I can before making that first prick with the lancet. My hands are so warm I don't even need the aggressive first wipe with toilet paper, and I made a bit of a mess repositioning to steady my arm on the basin. The tube is positioned so I can see when my blood has reached the relevant line. This worked so well I moved straight onto the second tube, but quite often I give the wound another firm wipe for good measure. It's worth reading the instructions to know what you have to do with the tubes once you've finished taking the sample. So there we have it, setting up the kit, warming the hands and collecting the sample in under 5 minutes from a single lancet use. I hope you found this video useful and it encourages you to keep trying until you get it right. This did not come naturally to me, I've just had a lot of practice. If you're an experienced sample taker and you have any other tips, or if you watch this video and you found the tips useful, please leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.